This video contains both publicly available information and personal opinions. Generalizations about this information are made for the purposes of discussion, approximation, and expediency, and furthermore, should not be taken as an absolute representation of a mutable fact. Viewer discretion is advised. I've been thinking a lot about William Graham Sumner's essay, The Forgotten Man, in which the anti-elitist William posited that all too often it was not the top rungs of society, but the middle class who shouldered the greater burden of societal change, reform, and so-called equity. And his essay was a call, or invitation rather, to examine the character of those who were silently, nobly, and stoically carrying that burden through day-to-day life for the betterment of others. Franklin D. Roosevelt years later would appropriate Sumner's work and use the term the forgotten man to describe those who had slipped between the cracks, crushed by the weight of a breaking American dream on the lower rungs of society, and were indeed in need of their fellow Americans' help. The duality of the forgotten man in both of these men's perspective has weighed heavily on me as of late, as I've seen both perspectives echoed in, the killer community for a long time. Really, a lot of the neglected killers who are suffering right now's only crime is that they've lacked the staying star power of the S-tier's chosen three. Today, we're going to be examining three killers who have met with such fates in particular. Killers who have paid the price over and over and over again for others and have been left behind, forgotten. My name's Mad Moon, and this is for DBD's Forgotten Men. I remember when Dead by Daylight was just catching its stride, really coming into its own back in 2019. I was just a normal dude playing clown. I didn't even know I could lunge attack till at least a month or two of playing. I was green, I was relatively humble, I didn't take the game too seriously, and I really didn't know too much about anything in terms of just how deep the game really could go in terms of its mechanics and expressions. But I do remember this. The killers were really cool. Every killer, every survivor, with every trailer given in that sweet, sweet showcasing voice, just put up the coolest, most atmospheric gameplay mechanics, complete with interesting, rich perks that came with them. It was cool. I knew this much. There was something for everyone, because every killer and survivor was so unique and so interesting that anyone could find a playstyle for them, and it hit just right. But for myself, I still didn't feel like I had that something personal, something I could call my own yet. And then it happened. March 10th, 2020.
The new killer is the Deathslinger.
The new killer of the Chains of Hates DLC came out. Caleb Quinn, the Deathslinger. I was enamored. A new range killer, and what's more, it was a range killer who was the other side to a coin I didn't even know existed. If anything, Caleb was a proof of concept, an inversion or twist on an existing pre-established norm that was put by Huntress, and it flipped it completely on its head. He didn't have to go to lockers to reload. He was very stealthy with a 24 meters, slick as the night terror radius. He had limited range, but with a near-instant ADS, combined with these other things I've mentioned, he was the undisputed God King of the 1v1. What's more, the uniqueness of his power also fed into weird combinations. Specifically, because his power always led to his primary weapon attack or an M1, aka the bayonet, this created new, interesting synergies that just couldn't be expressed through somebody like Huntress, like Surge or Save the Best for Last. In every way, Deathslinger was everything the Huntress was not. He was quiet, he was quick, on the go, ready for action, and true to his name at a certain distance, he was the gunslinger that was going to put you down. And yet, Deathslinger never really detracted or stole anything from Huntress or any other killer, for that matter. Despite the fact that Huntress's lullaby made real stealth next to impossible, and she had to stop to reload at lockers for her hatchets, Huntress sported numerous edges of her own that remained integral to her brand. Her ability to down at any range, and with shots such as orbitals, which stand in direct contrast to Caleb's limited and linear range of shot, plus not being able to down over pallets or at range by chain alone, are without a doubt the largest differences I can think of. Many a slinger has often had a safe pallet go down just to have his chase delayed or lost, whereas a Huntress, provided that she just holds her shot, can easily force the down either way. Yet despite what naysayers of the time said about Slinger, he also sported downs which were virtually impossible not only for Anna, but any other killer to receive, such as shooting through holes at angles no wider than a gnat that could translate to game-winning plays. Indeed, Caleb and the Chains of Hate DLC only came to add to the game, not to detract from others. From a new interesting killer, with an excellent atmospheric map, compelling lore from both Caleb and Zarina's and their strange ties and parallel lives, to even the new mechanic of breakable walls, which were a fresh take on weakening strong loops, the Chains of Hate DLC was a masterclass in how to introduce new content, enhancing the existing experience without detracting from the old one, only offering new avenues for new and better ones. I guess I knew two things the day I bought Caleb Quinn. I knew that Dead by Daylight was cool, and I knew that Caleb Quinn was going to be my killer. Flash forward 4 years, and Slinger is, well, now a shadow of his former self. His initial interesting designs and various playstyles have all been curtailed, butchered, or removed. His arms have been broken to make his ADS speed the most painful experience in any first-person shooter I've ever experienced, without a doubt, ever. His terror radius, which was a lesser seen advantage but nonetheless vital, and played into things like monitor and abuse or even the original furtive chase to give him the edge with his limited range, has been permanently increased to a 32-meter terror radius, all while maintaining his original speed at 110%. It was all in the name of progress, they told me. My character was just too strong, that's what they said, despite the fact that Blight players were putting up 1K win streak games over and over again, and by Deathslinger's own data that they released, was still well below the 60% kill rate target threshold for the quote-unquote power roll that Behavior wanted to achieve. Sure, they buffed other items in his kit when these eventual nerfs came down his way, but let's be real, nothing really changed. Almost all of his add-ons still remain worthless to this day. If anything, they've increased in worthlessness these days. Realistically, there is no variety in his choices for add-ons. There is only what is viable and essential to making his quality of life not feel like absolute agony. There's the quality of life speed reload add-ons, which are virtually essential for making the game not feel unplayable, and then there are the cigar and the coin. And I guess we've really covered just about everything there, unless we want to really get into the weeds about the oil can. Indeed, slingers were told, in no uncertain terms, that a long ADS was good, because DBD isn't a first-person shooter. And if you want that, you should go back to COD. Deathslinger should be punished heavily for missing a shot. Quickscoping isn't a worthy strat, or a real expression of skill. With all the changes around healing, even his niche and interesting builds are gone. Like double stacking his mend increase add-ons plus the original leverage, or perhaps something with Sloppy Butcher, or maybe even swapping that out for something like the Railroad Spike. Those combinations were interesting, cool, and they slowed down the game in areas you weren't normally expecting, and frankly, in some regards, you couldn't really counter. They weren't OP, but it was still interesting, and it was fun to get involved atmospherically with it. I remember running Bloodhound and feeling like I could track the survivors by the thrill of the hunt alone. Gone. With leverage changed to its current state. There's no reason to ever bother with any mend-based add-ons. Not when things like Speed Reload exist, or let alone an Insta-Down add-on. Sloppy Butcher's dead, so if the status of Mangled is gone, there's really no purpose to even run it on the Rusted Spike, is there? And what an add-on to lose, as it was essentially a way to get a 5th perk on Deathslinger, which, given his current state, he really needed something to give him some power in the 4v1. Any slowdown is good with Slinger. But why bother? With all these changes, it's just better to take double keys, an oil can, or the coiner cigar. Realistically, beyond what I've just expressed right there is no variety. There's nothing that plays into each other in an interesting or fun way. At least, nothing that isn't just a total meme or is completely stupid. Even his most iconic playstyle, which was save the best for last, which was one of the few things keeping his gameplay experience from feeling like an absolute hellscape, was so changed as to not even be worth the slot. All this to fix what wasn't broken, may I remind you, and created a new strat for Slinger, which is universally hated. But realistically, there's no mechanical fix, and there's really no reason to not do it. I'm of course referring to just threatening with your power and never using it, aka aiming down your sights and zoning people into areas by threatening them with the shot. But why not? When you've penalized so heavily for missing a shot, it's better just to fake it. Deathslinger is a killer who is just punished to such an unbelievable degree for missing. There's the shot itself, there's the reel, the reload. All of these come with various movement speed penalties that all give survivors huge distance. Combined with his base 110% movement speed, Deathslinger's original major weakness, which was map pressure, aka the 4v1, was majorly amplified. In the past, you had to treat Deathslinger like Legion to win. Spreading out was the only way to bring out the power of the 4v1. But post-nerf, you don't even really need to respect Caleb like you used to anyway. Just pre-run every time you see or hear him, and, well, that strat's going to be twice as effective against him as any other killer, just due to his finite range and slow speed. Try Midwich sometime and see what I mean against a really good team. They'll make you suffer as Deathslinger. What's more, Deathslinger has an absolute boatload of counterplay. He's got body blocking, environmental blocking. He's the only range killer who cannot down at range, meaning safe pallets are extra safe. He has limited range, and now he doesn't even have meaningful stealth options. Don't misuse your power, they say. But here's the thing. Deathslinger is the only killer in the game whose power is not only an expression of pure mechanical skill, not just play/WASD memorization, who can also execute that mechanical skill and power perfectly, hit the survivor, and still not get it down. I cannot tell you how many game-winning shots have come up empty because of a chain pull that just wouldn't work on the environment, because an ankle-high box is in the way, or a survivor who was body-blocked and pushed the speared survivor into geometry that broke the chain, or just barely got in front of my swing to take that hit for the other survivor instead. There's really no other killer in the game who requires such a high level of genuine mechanical skill, who is equally so heavily punished even when they use that power correctly. But that was the lie I was sold. Over and over again, Gaslit as my killer was shamed and defamed, saying that he had no business being a stealth killer, he had no business being quick shot capable, he should be punished for misusing his power, quote-unquote missing any shots. If you don't like that lack of playstyle variety either, with all these perk changes and reworks, well, you're just entitled. And I sat there biting my lip till my mouth was just filled with blood, and some part of me may have even begun to believe it. It wasn't until June 17th, 2025. Springtrap releases, and he's a ranged axe-wielding killer. Not only can his axe down at range, not only does it excel at orbitals, not only does it charge passively while he's on the go, not only does he get an instant survivor pickup from hitting a survivor in the back when he's close enough, but he also gets faster without the axe, meaning it's a viable strat to throw your axe, knowing you'll miss, or just taking the chance that you may or may not hit, and you'll still get rewarded either way. Either you're going to hit the survivor, or you're going to miss, and you're going to get up to 115% speed. When I read that for the first time, I can't help but remember thinking, I'm sorry? What? I thought quote-unquote misusing your power was a punishable offense. What does Springtrap get faster for missing? His slowdown, if it's even there, is virtually imperceptible by comparison to Deathslinger. When Deathslinger misses a shot, we're talking rough napkin math here, anywhere from like 5.5 to 6 meters, or, in God's numbers, 15 to 20 feet of lost distance for missing a shot. Presuming everyone's running in a straight line here, of course. Now, what's that? Oh yeah, did I forget to mention that Springtrap also has a 24-meter terror radius? And funny thing about that, even has a built-in add-on which actually play into those built-in stealth mechanics in a way that isn't stupid, or is actually viable and fun. And if that wasn't enough, yes, to shore up any doubt that he might have the same map pressure issues as Deathslinger, aka being weak in the 4v1 due to limited range, well, there's no need to worry about that. Because he can surprise teleport to keystone locations around the map on the fly. And if somebody just happened to be using his doors at the same time, he'll just get a free down on that too. Yes, that's right. He's great in the 1v1, and he's great in the 1v4 too. This rabbit, this spring-locked monument to furry idolatry, has literally cannibalized my killer. Everything that was ripped away and stolen from Caleb Quinn because it was deemed too much and too powerful is now comfortably nestled inside of Springtrap and then some. Springtrap is objectively better in Caleb in every capacity because he is Caleb. He is what Caleb used to be and was doubled for good measure. People like to talk about power creep this, power creep that, but really, is it power creep? Behavior doesn't have a power creep problem, they have a power replacement problem. You see, behavior has gotten so lazy, every killer is just a recycled, multi-ability Frankenstein creature created from piecemeal pieces of other killers. People who want to jump in the comments and at me about, oh, there's only so many ideas left for killers, it's just not true. Just go and check Identity 5 and see what they've done in their years with cool killer concepts. You can't tell me that there isn't ideas left in the tank. There is. There's just a lack of will to execute them. It's generally just easier to copy-paste a power that is already coded as an item and start from there in making something else. Yes, power creep does exist, but killers aren't getting creeped out, they're getting just replaced. All your skills as a 110 ranged killer, aka Huntress or Deathslinger mains, are easily transferable over to Springtrap, and you're going to see infinitely better results for the move from both of them. And while Deathslinger has been done dirty for the better half of a decade, and probably has gotten it the worst, he certainly isn't alone in the phenomenon of being replaced. Unknown, who I do empathize with quite a bit, in terms of his skills that are required to play, has always been a weak killer, who just like Deathslinger, is high risk, low reward. His weakened prerequisite can be dispelled just by looking at him, and you can do that behind total cover and walls with the third-person perspective on the camera, meaning the unknown can't even see you, and technically you're still countering him in chase, and realistically there's nothing you can do about it. Pretty sure I heard that somebody did the math, and based on the numbers of his weakened effect, presuming the survivor's playing correctly, looking at you, etc., if you're missing like 50% of your shots, apparently you're just losing because the effect will drop before you can fire up a follow-up. Not even counting his add-on situation being very similar to Caleb in that there's correct choices and then there are handicaps. We aren't even talking about his aiming limitations on the vertical axes, which only further cripple his already limited potential. Enter Krausu, who, upon launch, to my knowledge, is still just better in every respect than Unknown. If you've mastered Unknown's mechanical skill ceiling for his weakened shots, or the UVX, well, then that's going to be directly translatable plug-and-play into Krausu. And not only are you going to be able to get away with a lot more for a lot less, you're going to have an insane kit with other wild and fun options that make the mundane gimmick of Unknown's teleport reveal itself to be, well, very anemic. Ghostface has always struggled to maintain viability, despite his beloved nature from both sides of the community. His power needs no introduction. He stalks, and then he can down people, prepping their stock on a meter so that he can pop it at just the right moment as to surprise, and gain a major advantage over a specific survivor. This is, of course, when he isn't being ran like a poor M1 and exposed every 30 seconds. However, in the age of Dashslop Myers, who was at least distinct in his own exposed/stock mechanics, is now just Ghostface, but better. From what I understand I know there's been a lot of changes, one most recently, even more recent than recent with Myers, but still from what I can see, if you slap on Terror and Abuse and the Dead Rabbit add-on, Tier 2 just is objectively stronger than Ghostface. It's all the powers of Ghostface without any of the baggage, and then some. It's just sad to see. Dead by Daylight is barreling forward, even now, into this dark tunnel of the future. And I think people are going to need to ask themselves, whose killer is going to be next? Yesterday, it was Deathslinger. Today, it's Unknown and Ghostface. Who's it going to be tomorrow? You think your killer's above it? I would think again. These people nerfed Billy at the same time they nerfed Deathslinger, giving him an overheat mechanic. Except it didn't accelerate you into a super blue saw. It burned out your saw. Destroyed it, not enhanced it. We wouldn't want him taking away from Golden Boy Blight's bread and butter, would we? He needs another half-decade in the limelight. And now all these killers are drowning in the pallet jungle, filled with sawdust and splinters. I think it's only going to get worse from here, until people begin to start speaking out. If you really want to see change, if you want to see justice for these killers and your fellow killers, and maybe even prevent your own killer from suffering these same fates, you're going to need to start being a little bit more vocal to behavior. You're going to need to start reminding behavior that it's time to remember the Forgotten Man.